What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Destined Rivals as well as the other Scarlet and Violet Air booster boxes. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen your favorite creators make videos on Destined Rivals. There were sales up to $700 USD. Some people are claiming the box is now $600-700. That's not actually the case. It has come back down to normalcy, in quotation marks, whatever that is nowadays. But we'll get deeper into that in the video. But first, we're going to start with our daily shill of Prismatic Evolutions because, guys, I said 300 likes. I do it again. We broke that threshold. So the SPCs are now pushing $300 on TCG Player. They've been doing this for the past couple days, but consistently now we're hitting $300. And more importantly, the regular ETBs are up to $129.32 on TCG Player. And we've seen a lot of sales in the $135 range, some as high as $139.95, 15 quantities sold today. So I think it's only a matter of time before these start to break into the 140s and we see consistent sales at that price. It's crazy. These were like $80. You could have been buying these locally all day, every day there for a couple months. Those of you who actually saw the vision and understood how good Prismatic is, you were probably loading up on this. For those of you who watch certain creators that say everything's going to go to MSRP and crash, you probably didn't, and I feel bad for you. That's unfortunate. I still think there's a lot of room to grow on Prismatic in the future. Again, my whole thesis on Prismatic out the gate was that if you didn't have any dollar cost average, it's going to be a great 3 to 5 year hold, probably even longer than that. In the short term, you might lose money as reprints come in. We saw that, but that is the time where you need to buy and you need to dollar cost average and build your position. So that's what's going on with Prismatic, continuing to move up. Now we're going to move into Scarlet and Violet era. We will go in order, so we'll finish off with Destined Rivals and have a little bit more in-depth conversation on Destined when we get there. SV base, and I will say this, for basically every single Scarlet and Violet era booster box this week, they were up. I think Obsidian Flames was the only one that was down, and it was only down a couple dollars. But across the board, basically, including SV base, there was less supply on the market this week. And with sales volume being fairly consistent across the board for a lot of these booster boxes, it didn't fully justify the reduction in inventory listed on the market. So people are clearly holding back boxes with anticipation that the market is going higher. And considering that Destined is now probably a legit $500 box, at least like $480-ish, I think it's a fairly rational thing to do to pull your other boxes because there shouldn't be this big of a split, in my opinion, between Destined and some of these other Scarlet and Violet era sets. So SV base, I think there was like 2 cases or so listed below a 20% leg up. I think that SV base is going to be $300 by the end of the year. I think actually pretty much every booster box will be $300 now. The only ones I think will be close, Journey Together and Temporal Forces, I think those are probably going to be the last 2 to break the $300 threshold. Now, things could change if we get more reprints, but if we don't, just based on what I'm seeing, that is more likely the reality than not. Now, before we go any further and talk about Paldea Evolved onwards, I did want to jump in here and give a shout out to today's video sponsor, the Shiny app. Guys, whether you're investing in Pokemon, you're collecting, you need to know what you have at all times. That's where Shiny comes in. It's a mobile app to help you track your collection. They cover Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, One Piece, Disney Lorcana, Sorcery, and now Gundam. In my opinion, they have the best user experience out there, and I love the fact that they're trying to update their data more frequently than everyone else, updating twice per day from places like TCG Player, eBay, Card Market, and Price Charting. And the best part about the app is that it's absolutely free, so I'll leave links to the Google Play and App Store in the description and pin comment down below. And thank you to Shiny for sponsoring the video. Now, I do want to go fairly rapid fire through these so we can have a little bit longer discussion on Destined Rivals, but Paldea Evolved is continuing to do its thing. It's in a position where I think it's going to continue just moving up week over week. I don't think we're going to see this trade sideways anytime soon. And not a ton of supply out there. Sales volume fairly consistent between like 2 and 3 boxes, buy it now, North America per day. It's been in that range for a fairly long period of time. I think when it went through, it's kind of move up from $400 to $465-ish in that range. You got up to maybe like 4 or 5 boxes per day, but it's normally between like 2 to 4, I'd say 2 to 3 on average. And with pretty much every other booster box at this point, I don't know if it's the best investment right now, but I do think with a fairly high level of confidence that these boxes are going to be more expensive at this time of year next year, if that makes sense, in 2026. So if you're buying stuff now, I don't think you're going to be losing out, especially these earlier Scarlet and Violet era sets. Obsidian Flames, this was the only box down this week. I think like a couple dollars, like 3 or 4, nothing major there. But there is more supply on the market now. People are definitely starting to take some profits on Obsidian Flames. Paradox Drift, it's starting to move up slowly. We're up to around $261 on TCG Player now. I'm curious to see most recent sales actually from the past like 48 hours. 277, 290 almost, 270. So this box will continue to push higher. It is getting closer to that 300-ish mark. And I do think now Paradox Rift will be a $300 box by the end of the year. I'm fairly confident in saying that. Temporal Forces, this is sitting around 250. I did say at the beginning of the video, I believe that this is probably going to be one of the last boxes to reach $300. It's going to be close by the end of the year if Temporal gets there, but it is slowly moving up as well. Twilight Masquerade, interestingly, a lot less Twilight on the market this week than in prior weeks. And I know I said pretty much every other box there was a reduction, but there was a very large reduction in the amount of Twilight out there, sitting around $320-ish dollars. Maybe this even gets to like $400 by the end of the year. That might be a little bit crazy, but I think it's not outside the realm of possibility at this point. Stellar Crown, very surprising as well. Stellar Crown is a set that normally has the lowest sell-through rate on eBay compared to the other Scarlet and Violet era sets. But this week, the sales volume for Stellar Crown was higher than every other SV era set except the ones that came out after it. So Surging Sparks, Journey Together, and Destined Rivals were all higher, but everything else below it, like Paradox Rift, Temporal Forces, Twilight Masquerade, Obsidian Flames, Paldea Evolved, SV Base, all of those had lower sales volume compared to Stellar Crown, which is very surprising. So people were buying Stellar this week. There was also a lot less boxes on the market, and a lot of that probably has to do with the increase in the amount of boxes being purchased over the past 7 days for Stellar. And I think this is another box that is going to be $300 by the end of the year. At least it's looking like it's headed that direction. Now, Surging Sparks, this is where things start to get interesting in my mind. So Surging, this was around like $240 for a long period of time. We're now up to around $267 on TCG Player, but the most recent sales over the past 48 hours, 310, 310, 308. We do have some loose packs at 243, 260. So you can see here, basically in the past day or so, we've gotten sales over $300. When I looked at eBay, there weren't many boxes listed below $300 for Surging. So normally when eBay is higher than TCG Player, that's a sign to me that the box is going to move up very quickly. So I think on TCG Player, we're going to see Surging get to $300 here fairly quickly. That's just my guess based on what I'm seeing. And it makes sense too, especially with Destined moving up, with Paldea Evolved moving up. Now, Journey Together, kind of a boring set to talk about, in my opinion. This is probably the only box, if there is going to be one that doesn't get to 300, this is going to be the set by the end of the year that isn't there. But we did also talk yesterday about Lily's Clefairy EX now being in the top 20 special illustration rares in all of the SV era, sitting around $155, I believe. So it's got some decent things going for it, especially considering that it is a smaller set. It's easier to pull the special illustration rares. They're probably not going to be as expensive. It's kind of like an Obsidian Flame situation where that Charizard's only like $120, $125 right now. But all of this has been a lead up to the conversation on Destined Rivals. So I'm sure a lot of you guys saw the sales up to $700. I'll show you. You can see here today, there's been a ton of sales. But if we scroll back here to late last night or in the afternoon, whatever, we had sales jump from $600. Well, initially it was like $540, and then we jumped up to $565, then $595, then $650, then $700. Then we had a sale at $725, and then it's jumped back down $440, $435, $430, $435, one up to $490 again, some in the $380-ish range even. Now the most recent sales, $490, $480, $470, $470. I think this is going to be in this $470 to $480 range now. I think just with that buyout happening last night, we're going to establish a new floor on Destined Rivals booster boxes. And I've yet to see any other PokeTuber talk about this, but this is supported by the secondary market data. What's happening on eBay, there was less than 50%. When I looked last night, okay, so I did this at 2 a.m. Things could have changed over the past 12 hours or so. But when I looked last night, there was a 50% reduction in the amount of boxes listed from this week to last week. And there was a 30% increase in the amount of boxes that were purchased by It Now North America from last week to this week. So there's less boxes out there currently, and people are buying them at a faster rate. And that's all without mentioning the fact that when I did the update last week, Destined Rivals booster boxes were about $100 less than when I clocked them last night when I did the update. So clearly people are still buying the boxes. You also have sellers pulling back boxes right now. And I have no idea if that new floor is going to be at $420, $450, $500, $550, but I do think it's going to be higher than that like 380, 390-ish range that we were seeing Destined Rivals be at over the past couple weeks, if that makes sense. And also, I do want to close the video by saying this. With Destined Rivals, Paldea Evolved, now Surging Sparks, all these boxes moving up in terms of price, I think this is going to have upward pressure on some of the other eras like Sword and Shield again, Sun and Moon era, even potentially maybe some of the lower end stuff. I don't know if Team Up has another run in it or whatever, but maybe some of the other tag team sets like Cosmic Eclipse, Unified Minds, Unbroken Bonds, maybe those continue to move. In XY era, maybe we see something like a Roaring Skies or a Furious Fist, maybe those continue to move up. In Sword and Shield era right now, because I think those are probably the most comparable sets to some of these SV era sets right now, it's kind of bizarre that Destined Rivals is about the same price as Brilliant Stars or Chilling Reign, right? Like we saw sales up to $725. We have definitely not seen that yet on something like Brilliant, on Chilling. So I think some of these alt-art sets from the Sword and Shield era, even though I didn't really expect them to make another move anytime soon, just with the pressure coming from the Scarlet and Violet era, they might also be primed to make a move to like $600, $650, maybe even $700. Who honestly knows at this point, guys? I can only go based on the data that I'm seeing that's being shown to me. And this market is doing things that nobody expected. So enjoy the ride while it's still going. If you guys want me to continue shilling Prismatic, I feel like, we're kind of ran the entire course with Prismatic, at least for now. So maybe if this video gets 300 likes, I'll start shilling Surging Sparks. How about that? Because I think a lot of you guys own Surging Sparks booster boxes. And now, hey, we've seen a few sales around $300, $310-ish. Maybe this is primed to make a move to $350. Who knows? So 300 likes, I'll start shilling Surging Sparks booster boxes for the lulz. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you did get some value out of this, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. Leave a comment down below for the algorithm. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.